when he looks at you, all your thoughts vanish. Only Swami exists, nothing else. And in that short period of complete stillness, the joy which is already inside you comes out. And that is what makes you feel so happy.
Col Bose.
Sister Gauri.
We are very happy that you can be with us today. Brother, could you relate to us how you first came to know about Sai Baba?
Well, Sister Gauri, it's a pleasure to recall our first meeting with Swami. I was posted to Delhi. I was in a place called Pune, and Father was here in Puttaparthi. And he insisted that before I went to Delhi, I must come and take Baba's blessings. So I came here, and the security was very tight. And I came to the compound wall, and there was a door there, and a Sevadar, and I told them, I am Curator Bose's son, I have come to meet him. He said, wait, I'll go and inform him. So he went and informed him. He came out and said, wait, I'll go and ask Swami. I said, wait, I'm still waiting. He went and then came out. He said, I asked Swami. And Swami said, your house is my house and my house is your house. Of course your son can stay with you. At that time I went in. I still have not seen him. But as I was about to enter with Father, Swami came out. This visit or this glimpse of Swami for the first time happened in Vrindavan, Whitefield. And it was a momentous occasion. He was so charming, so beautiful. Looking at him, you felt happy. So, I went with Father. Swami said, Father told him, Swami, my son has come. He created vibhuti and gave me. And then he went and gave darshan to all the big crowd which had there. And for the next few days, we used to sit in the inside veranda. Along with me, there was a young boy whose father was in charge of the farm there. And this boy was about 12 years old, and he had a blood clot in the brain.
Blood clot in the brain.
Swami went to him and said, Swami has taken away your blood clot.
Wow.
So I saw this, my really eyes opened. And the boy was so taken aback, he couldn't speak. But his father was there and he felt very, very happy. And that was my first glimpse of the way he talked to them. And next day he called me inside. And I thought he may ask me questions and what should I answer? But I realized he doesn't ask questions. He gives you all the answers that are already in your brain. I didn't even have to open my mouth. He told me everything. I was told by Swami that, don't worry, I have taken away all your troubles. And Swami's voice, when he is addressing the crowd, is quite different from when he is alone with you.
See.
The sweetness of his voice is something which can't be described. It has to be experienced. I came out of that. And next day, Swami said, come. Took me outside. There were other boys and other people there. And he made me stand next to him and told a boy with a Polaroid camera, come on, take a photograph. He took a photograph. By this time, my father also came. He told him to stand on the other side and took another photograph. After that, I thought that is all. He went inside, took me inside, and one was the photograph. Then now he says, Swami will give you something. Keep it with you all the time. And he gave me a ring. Not this one, another one, or Shiva in an oval shape. I had kept it for 21 years. Then when I came to stay in Puttaparthi, he changed it. He said, give it in the interview room. So I gave him the ring. He looked at it. Shiva's face, by this time in 21 years, all the features had become flat. He gave it to another person who was there. See, can you make out what it is? He said, no, Swami, can't make out. You see, nameless, formless. And then for 3 times he blew on it, and it has become old.
Oh. Amazing. Perhaps from your experiences with Swami, could you relate to us any miraculous incident which you would like to share?
See, in my life there have not been miraculous events to narrate to others. But yes, something happened to my father. That it was 1988 Dasara day. Father was having high temperature for last few days. But that morning, there was a remission in fever and father went for the discourse. Doctor said, why are you going? You have had fever. He said, no, Swami's Shanti Jal and discourse I must hear. And Swami started his discourse. And my father toppled from the chair.
He fell over.
He fell over from the chair. Immediately 2 Sevadar laid him out. And there were 2 doctors sitting behind him, Dr. Chari, Dr. Patel. They came immediately and examined him. They found no pulse, no heartbeat.
Oh.
In the meantime, Swami had switched off the mic and was rushing towards father. So 3 doctors, they raised their hand and say, no life. Swami didn't even pause. Pushed them to one side, caught something from the air and did this on my father's head. And father opened his eyes.
Wow.
Everybody clapped. They saw what was happening. They realized. And Swami said, Bose, get up. The father got up. So go and sit on the steps, you will get fresh air.
Incredible.
So we went and sat. We didn't know actually what happened. There was loud clapping. Father was wondering what was happening. And Swami gave his Shanti Jal, water sprinkled, and continued with all his discourse and everything as if nothing has happened. After the discourse, Swami left, everybody left also. And Father was going towards our flat, which is just behind Kulwant Hall. He opened the lock, went inside. The 2 doctors also went inside.
They couldn't
Followed
believe
him.
it.
So father was very puzzled. What happened? Why are you coming? You know, if they ask, you don't know what happened to you? I fainted. He said, painted my foot, you died. There was no life in your body till Swami brought life back to you.
There was second lease of life for your father.
Then father realized that something which he had seen when he thought he had fainted now made sense. Father said, I found myself floating, looking down, and my body was there, and there was a huge big golden eagle. And I was wondering how such a big bird could come in through this opening. And then I saw Swami waving the bird away. The bird vanished, and I found myself lying. When Swami told me to get up.
It was an out-of-body experience.
Yes. And that evening, the trust meeting, Swami told the trustees, Bose had died, but I can't let him go as yet. He has still a lot of work to do for me. And he lived for another 11 years, and the words of Swami that you still have a lot of work to do for me. And that important work was the super specialty hospital.
Your father helped in the building of
He
the
was
super
put in charge of
specialty.
it. Because that work, there was a lot of trouble, quarreling on this. Swami told everyone, these people who were looking after the work, told them to go. Called father and said, take immediate charge.
And that was his duty.
And in another 6 months' time, it was inaugurated by Prime Minister.
Colonel, currently we understand you are now the curator of Chaitanya Jyoti. How did this come about?
Well, it so happened that my mother had a stroke. She was 82. She had a stroke. And all three of us, brother and sister, were informed. And we came from different directions. And when he came here, we found my mother was admitted in the super specialty hospital. And we went to meet her. And mother, the way she was, she could feel, she could hear, but her eyes was not in focus. She couldn't see, but she could understand when we talked to her. Anyway, after 4 days, she passed away. And Swami called us and said, do your last rites. Don't feel bad about your mother. She was a pious lady. She had lived her life. And she will not be born again.
Incredible.
You know, Swami never gave my mother any rings, necklace, something, nothing. Here people think a person is called for interview 5 times, she must be a great lady. But Swami did not call my mother for even one thing. And at the end of her life, gave her the most prized
Most
possession,
precious.
that she will not be born again. Anyway, and the father had to be looked after. He didn't want to leave Puttaparthi and go and stay with my brother. Then Swami looked towards me. Wind up and come. I'll give you work, I'll give you place to stay. So that was orders. So he gave me 15 days to wind up, go back to Delhi, wind up and come. When I came back, he behaved as if he doesn't know me. He didn't even look at me, he looked somewhere else.
That's Swami.
I said, Swami, I know all these tricks. I gave him a letter. As per your instructions, I have come back. It's up to you what you want to do with me. I gave him the letter. He took the letter without looking at it.
Oh dear.
I've done my job, now the ball is in your court. 3 months, he gave me rest. After 3 months, he called me. And in front of everybody and talked to me in Telugu, which I don't know. So I just kept looking at him. Later on, I asked a person here who used to look after the ashram. And I said, what did he say? I didn't understand. He said he has put you in charge of this new project. At that time it was not known as Chaitanya Jyoti. New project, commemorative building. You go tomorrow to the site, find out what is what, and start work. So he came here, found 2 engineers of the L&T, looked around, and then Swami called me. Have you understood? Yes, Swami, I have understood. But Swami, I am a soldier, I am an engineer. I know nothing about running a museum. He said, you will learn as you go along. Okay, so that is how I became in charge of this wonderful building.
Brother, could you share with us, during the construction of Chaitanya Jyoti, were there any incidents that you want to share with us?
One day I was standing in front and the building had been 3/4 complete. He stopped the car and asked me, why have you painted these pillars with red paint? That is communist color. I said, Swami, this color scheme was the Chinese emperor's color scheme more than 2000 years back. Communists have come only recently, they have copied this. So he was happy, went away. One more incident happened. Swami in the morning used to come by car, go past. I was standing at the corner. Swami came and I folded my hands and pointed this way. Swami, please go up. So, what is there to see? Swami, they are beautiful koi fish. I saw them. Swami, when you saw them, they were small. Now they are big. Okay. He started moving, the car started moving, so I ran behind it a couple of steps and stopped the car. Opened the door. Come and sit inside. If you run after the car, you will become breathless. That's so sweet of him. So then, by car, we stopped. I opened the door, got up. Swami also got up. Here at the fish, I showed him. And I told this Sevadar who had come from Middle East, I told them, maintain discipline, Swami will stay with us for some time. The slightest show of indiscipline, he will go. So they all kept their place. Where are the fish? As if he doesn't know. Swami, they have to go. How did they come? So they came by air from Tokyo. He asked me so many questions, giving us all so much of pleasure to talk to him. Everything he knows, but he was giving us pleasure. And after that, he went, sat in the car. I also sat in the car, he told me to sit. At the end of the driveway, we had to go down. He stopped the car. You come out of the car here. If you go in, go down, you'll have to come up again. See how much he thinks of. So I got down from there. And what a wonderful experience all of us had.
So now, could you share with us, perhaps, how do you think your life has been transformed?
See, it didn't take long to understand that I am in the presence of God. And when you realize that, every time he comes near, you get that thrill. So, and then read about him, learn about him. And then the most important thing, know his teachings and try to follow them. And that is the most wonderful thing, because it gives you so much of pleasure, so much of happiness to follow his teachings. and his greatest teaching is love. And we always try to tell us, don't lose your temper, don't get angry, show love, even to the smallest, most a beggar, show love. When I tell you, once was passing a beggar, and he looked at me with such a sad eye and asked for some money. I never give money to beggars, but I give them food. So I went to outside, got some food and gave him. And what a smile he gave me.
How is Puttaparthi since Swami left his physical body?
Well, we've been used to Swami coming and going. So many times he has not been here. For 2 months sometimes, summer used to go to Kodai or Bangalore. But we got used to his physical body being there, not being there. Didn't make much difference to us. Although looking at his physical body gave us a lot of pleasure. And in my case, we in our family had an undercurrent of spirituality. We were believers in Ramakrishna Mission, Ramakrishna Paramahansa, Swami Vivekananda. So all those teachings are similar to what Baba is teaching. So when we came here and became devotees of Baba, there was no great feeling of changeover. It is from one level to even higher level.
I see.
So Baba's teachings and Ramakrishna teachings very similar. But Baba's was even higher, even easier to understand. And what was all the time prevalent was his love. When you see there and think of it, yesterday Baba passed here, he looked at me, it was so wonderful. But these are the things which, even today, Baba is not here. And we keep thinking when he came, and then he looked at us and I told you one thing, I think, that once I was feeling very sad, somebody had said something, I was feeling very sad. In the Kulwant hall I was standing, Swami was distributing clothes. He came near me, looked at me for about 2 or 3 seconds, and that feeling of sadness disappeared. Completely disappeared. I tried to bring it back, but it wouldn't come back. And this is the type of thing that Swami used to do. We feel that Swami looked at us and passes on some joy to us. That is not correct. When he looks at you, all your thoughts vanish. Only Swami exists, nothing else. And in that short period of complete stillness, the joy which is already inside you comes out. And that is what makes you feel so happy.
Brother, could you, in your mind, who is actually Swami to you?
Actually, it's very difficult to describe God. But there is something, this is something you feel. It goes beyond description. It is what you feel when he is with you. And it is difficult to describe. I will tell you once when Swami called me for interview for the first time, and I went back and I told my wife that the compassion and love which I felt in Swami's voice. When he calls for interview, his voice is different. When he is in the crowd, his voice is different. So when he called me inside, the love and compassion which was in his voice, I have not heard even in my mother's voice. Next time when we came, I came with her, and both of us were called in for interview. And at that time, he told my wife, I know you have two children, you are very busy, you don't get time to do any meditation or anything. Whatever you do with love. That is your sadhana. And when we came out and I asked my wife, he said, yes, now I understand. What you say is that the compassion in his voice is something we have not heard in even our mother's voice.
So sweet. Thank you very much, Colonel Bose, for giving us your precious time. We know you are very busy with your schedule here, and yet you gave us the time for this interview. Thank you so much.
Well, it has been a great pleasure for me to talk to you, because it's very rarely that you get a chance to talk to people who are such intense devotion towards their first. It's a pleasure in itself.
Thank you so much, Sayala.